Okay, great. First thing in the morning. I think this is a good time. What an amazing theater, right? Isn't this beautiful? I want to over the next half an hour, hopefully inspire you as to why entrepreneurship is so incredible. For those of you who are not entrepreneurs, and for those of you who are entrepreneurs, reinforce why you did it in the first place. I want to tell you a little bit about what we've found as an accelerator, bringing about 500 companies through our program every single year that helps create strong success within entrepreneurship. Within that, we're going to look at what does success look like for entrepreneurs as well. And hopefully just you're going to walk away being able to put more of a milestone plan for yourself together on starting your own business. Can I just get a feel as to the amount of entrepreneurs that we have here, first of all? Could you just put up your hand? Okay, so we've got a few, probably about 50% of the people here. Very good. I want to actually start this by giving a shout out to the City of Glendale. And not because I have to and because it's something that we should do just quarterly, but because I really believe this is very important. I believe that when we look at success within entrepreneurship, without a city not just supporting the early stage startup community, but really understanding the early stage startup community, it's very hard. Like, our success rates are extremely low. And just to put that into perspective, when we look around the US, and especially here, whether it's LA, whether it's Glendale, whether it's Santa Monica, where we're based, or anywhere else, our success rates as early stage entrepreneurs is around 1%, right? It's pretty bad. Like, if you think about it, I'm an Irish guy of origin, proudly live here for many years, but from origin, I'm an Irish guy, so I always compare like the likelihood of anything to the likelihood of being able to get a beer. And if I was going to go out in the evening and my likelihood of getting a beer was 1%, I probably wouldn't go, right? So you got to ask yourself, like, why would all of these entrepreneurs start this incredible journey with only a 1% chance of being able to get successful? And then you ask yourself a second question, which is, can we improve that? Can we make the odds any better? So let me give you a very quick background into kind of where I started and how I came down here and where we are right now, so we can hopefully go on that journey just a little bit. Okay, so I said Irish by origin, lived in 30, maybe 40 countries, over 25 years. I've owned 5 businesses in those countries. Entrepreneurship has allowed me to travel the world. I don't stand up here and talk about a 4-hour work week and how entrepreneurship is great and you have the freedom to do anything you want. I work harder than most people. Like today, my day started at, I think, 4 o'clock this morning, maybe 3:45, and it will finish tonight at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But what I can tell you is that every single minute of those hours are filled full of, I would say, I'm going to say remorse, but I'm going to move it to where it really is. It's filled full of just a joy of wanting to go through your day that most other people don't have. And this isn't a beating on people who have a job versus entrepreneurs, but it is an encouragement to maybe to move over this side. Like, I feel there's 4 or 5 areas through our lives which are super short that actually measure us as to what we've achieved in this world. I mean, some of the things are obviously social. Maybe education is really important as well, what we learn and what we find out. I believe geography and being able to really explore and understand different places is really good. But then we have this one space, which is our creativity. Like, all of this stuff that we had when we were kids, that we were able to say, man, we're going to change the world. We're going to do something incredible and reach for the stars, and it's going to be us. It's not going to be somebody else's dream that we follow. It's going to be our own that we're going to be able to take, and we're going to be able to put something in the ground that was not there before. And then when we're no longer here, that stays beyond us. Like, that's what's so beautiful about being an entrepreneur. So for me, kind of when I set up Expert Dojo down here 4 years ago, I thought, man, it's great being an entrepreneur. And I want to encourage everyone to do it, but I don't want to encourage everyone to do it not even allowing for like all of my travels and all of the companies that I've owned. I don't want to encourage people to do it if only 1% of you are going to make it, because that doesn't make any sense. So first thing we did 4 years ago was we brought in 100 entrepreneurs. We brought them in on top of the mall. You know the Santa Monica shopping mall? Yeah, you all know that place? So we took about an 8,000 square foot unit right on top of the mall. It used to be an old restaurant. It was actually 4 failed restaurants. And to the mall's absolute credit, they recognized that an industry was changing. Shopping malls are not today how they used to be 20 years ago. They now need to be more experiential. So they brought us in. We took probably 100 companies through, and we said to those companies, here's our commitment. We will give you absolutely no support whatsoever. None, not even a little bit. We're not even going to help you. Even if you ask us for help, we are not going to help because we don't know what help needs to be given and what you need to get from it for you to be successful. But here's the good thing. We're not going to charge you anything. Think of us as a free landlord who's just going to study you and bisect you and watch everything you do over a 6-month period. And we did that with 100 companies. And of the 100 companies that came through, I mean, I won't go through the stats of who failed and who succeeded, because that's not what's important. What's important were the lessons that we got that allowed us then to build the accelerator that we put in place. Now, we found out that, A, lack of community is one of the #1 contributing factors to a startup failing. Now, what do I mean by lack of community? I don't mean free beer and pizza when you go out to go to an event in the evening. I don't mean people being nice to you or people encouraging you or people saying, yeah, you can do it. I mean you're a stronger part of the community, the mid to the large-sized companies, and your government stepping in and saying, as an early-stage startup, you're weak. And that's cool because you're doing something absolutely amazing. But because you're weak, we're going to help you. And that help may be in the form of mentorship. It may be in the form of allowing you to be a supplier if your product is okay. It may be in the form of incubating you, like some really great companies are doing, and assigning a little bit of money to helping the startups come through. Really important. So by having a strong community, you create a really strong foundation for startups. #2, and this was a personal finding, and I'm the only person, I think, in the United States with this belief, so don't necessarily believe me, but it was something that we found. We really struggled with lean startup as a philosophy. We found that any philosophy that suggested that, let me rephrase it. What would happen was somebody would come into our dojo and they would say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And normally it's like a 22-year-old guy, so no, everybody else is okay. But they would come in, they would say, here's what we're going to do. We have this app, and we have a huge problem, and we have an amazing solution, and we're going to blow up, and we're going to be a billion-dollar company, and we're just going to go for it. And it's just not how you build great businesses. How you build great businesses, you have to milestone. Like, you have to have a plan of where it's going to go to. You have to create an incredible brand which differentiates itself from anything else. Like, look at Tom's shoes. Look at Patagonia. Look at Virgin. Like, I know if I get a Virgin flight, I'm going to arrive in a meeting and be more successful, right? Because I just came off Virgin. I didn't come off Delta, I came off Virgin. So I'm definitely going to close that meeting. If I bring my Mac computer in here, I know I'm going to be more handsome, probably a little bit sexier. I'm definitely going to be funnier, right? I'm going to have more friends, and people are going to see me as being more successful, which means I will be more successful. And if I can send some emails, that's cool, but that's not the objective. If I just wanted to, so by creating a really strong brand, you can take a computer, which is really worth $400, and you can sell it for $2,000, and an idiot like me will buy it because I'm so desperately in need for praise from other people outside. But imagine if you can create that brand yourself. Patagonia do the same in a really good way. Tom's shoes, sure, we might be giving some kid in Africa like a pair of shoes. Awesome, but we're also paying $160 for a $15 pair of shoes. But we don't mind doing it. So great brands are really good. So for us, Lean Startup, the 2 areas we struggled in was on the branding and on the business planning, that you have to be able to create those things yourself. We also found that there was a toxic relationship with investment. The startups were going for it too soon. Investors weren't trusting startups. The gap was getting far wider. And what was happening was people were failing because they were running out of runway themselves. And then the final area was just on the education, just that we're not educated to be startups. We're educated to be followers. We go to school and they teach us how to follow other people's rules, and then we get to the end of our lives and we say, cool, we made it. But they never taught us to say, okay, the mindset of an entrepreneur is this. And one of our favorite companies is a company that focuses on 13 to 15-year-old girls, and they just teach them entrepreneurship skills. So really awesome there. So we set up an accelerator. We decided that we were going to make sure that we brought in as many companies as we could. We were going to incorporate all those areas in there. We were going to have an innovation factory. We were going to invest money in companies. We do small investments of about $50,000 a piece into companies. We're incubating more companies. We have a model in there where The incubation is mainly based on having an influencer, so more like your Honest Company type thing or your Shoe Dazzle type area in there. So we put that all together, but then we said to ourselves, fine, if we have this accelerator, if we have this training system in here, how do we make sure that the entrepreneurs who go through it are actually going to have a better chance of success? How do we take 1% and increase it to 10, 15, 20%? And this here, even though you can't see it properly, on the top it says, failing to plan is planning to fail. This is the absolute foundation of everything we stand for. And the thing about Expert Dojo is, it's not that we want to have the greatest success rates of startups, or we want the best startups to come through us, or we want to be successful with the most amount of exits. We're going to get that anyway. It's very hard for us not to be successful in the space that we're in. What we really want is another 100 accelerators, training companies, and everything else to start adopting these types of philosophies so we can improve startup success everywhere. So number one, failing to plan is planning to fail. On the bottom down there, which you can't see, is that you have 18 months to make it as a startup. Now, if you don't take anything else away from this entire talk, that's the only thing that's important. Startups do not fail. All 99% of them do not fail because their product is no good. They do not fail because their team is no good. They do not fail because they didn't get the right process. All of those things will get fixed, even by the most stupid of us, if we have enough time. But most of us don't have enough time. So what happens is, like take Amazon. We would look at Amazon as generally a massively successful company, right? We would say, wow, these guys are amazing. Look what they managed to do. They got a company which is worth how many billion? Like 80, 100 billion? Is that where we are right now? But it's many billions, right? Jeff Bezos, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time. You know how much money they lost before they became an overnight success? You want to shout out a number? Come on, give me something. 7 billion, there you go. They lost like $7 billion to be an overnight success. So for those first 10 years while they were losing $7 billion, were they a great company? No, they were a terrible company. But today they're a great company. Why? Because they had the runway to get them to where they need to. They had the people bought into it. For most of us poor schmucks, we don't have that privilege. We don't have billions of dollars that institutional investors are going to pump into our company until we can push out of business anybody who has a real business model. Not that I hate on Amazon. I think they're okay, but I'm not crazy about the way companies like that grow. But we don't have that. We have normal timelines. Now, if we only have 18 months, 18 months is normally around $120,000. That's enough money to get us started with maybe a minimum viable product within the app, or maybe a really good website if it's an e-commerce website. It gives us enough time for us to be able to maybe hire 1 or 2 people in the team, maybe have a stab at marketing. And then it also gives us enough time to build it and get a brand and a product fit and everything else in place. But it's only enough time to do that. It's really, really hard. Now, as entrepreneurs, what we do, we don't think, oh man, we've only got 18 months to get this thing going. We think to ourselves, first day, hey, I'm a CEO. You know, we get a t-shirt. Very important to get a t-shirt. Gary Vaynerchuk says the day a new company buys a t-shirt is the day they fail. Like, guaranteed, they're going out of business 1 month later, right? But we got our t-shirts anyway, because what the hell? If we're going to go out of business, we want to have a couple of t-shirts that we can bring home. So they get their t-shirts. We get a new title. So we have a beautiful business card, and it says CEO. Or some of us get to call ourselves Sensei, right? So we feel really cool. And then normally that euphoria lasts for about 6 months, where we're building our brand a little bit. We're not doing it in a structured way. We kind of build a website. It's not that great. We build another website. It's kind of okay. We look at a brand. We realize our messaging isn't that good. We just go through the fumbling process. But it feels cool because it's the first 6 months. We have enough money to get us through. Then we get from month 7 to normally month 12 or month 15. And that is a time that is filled full of frustration. So that time we end up just the website isn't right. The guy who promised to get us on the first page of Google didn't quite get us onto the first 100 pages of Google. You know, just all that stuff that we're promised and we realize are kind of lies, shrouded with good intentions, kind of. And then we get to month 15 or 16 and we realize that we've only got 2 or 3 months runway left. So it gets incredibly difficult to to try and do this. How am I doing? We're doing pretty well, actually. Okay, good. So these are the 3 areas that when we get there, so what we want to try and do is just real simple. Rather than it taking you 18 months or 24 months or 36 months, we just want you to do it in 12 months. We want you to get to the first day and you wake up in the morning and rather than saying, hey, I got to get a t-shirt, I got to get a business card, I got to get something else, you're going to say to yourself, oh, I got to get revenue, or I got to get users, or I got to get people bought into my beta, or I got to start proving concept today. And if you get to tomorrow and you haven't done that, and the next day and the next day, then your panic increases. Like, we want you worried at the start, not when you get to month 15 or 16, because if you do this, and it sounds really obvious, but I swear to you, of the first 100 companies who came through, not one single one had a plan which was based on numbers in the first, second, third, or fourth month. Not one single one. And not many of them made it through. So look, these are the 4 areas that are going to dictate how you build your milestone plan. Your investment, your team size, your cash flow, your competition. When we get to the milestone plan, we'll say, okay, what does 18 months look like? Like, what are we trying to get to? And we're also in this crazy world where everything has been Kim Kardashianized. So if we don't make $1 billion as a company, we're not successful. If we don't create a company that's bought by Amazon and Google and somebody else, then we're not a great entrepreneur. But that's BS. Like, the real truth is, if we have a company which is doing $100,000, $150,000 a month, or even less, we got a great company. If we own 100% of that, and we're doing that every single month, hell, I'm going to Cancun twice a year. And I got 2 or 3 people running my business, and I'm really successful. So the first thing you have to do with your business is really define what success looks like. Like, look at the amount of unicorns we've had in LA, all of LA County in the last 3-4 years. Not very many, right? Dollar Shave Club, great company, but not really just made by the founder. They went through Science, which is an incubator. Science owned a huge share of Dollar Shave Club. Like, the backdrop, the backstory is kind of kept secret, but it's not a random entrepreneur who woke up one day and goes, hey man, I'm going to do like a viral video. It's going to be cool and everybody's going to see me and we're going to have 100 million users. No, they had to get investment of well over $200 million to get to that level, and it was never run by the owner. And if you pulled him aside and you really talked to him about his experiences that he went through, he would say to you that there were many, many horrible times in that. In my book, you give me a business that's doing 80 to 150K a month, which is my business, my destiny, my purpose, the things that I decide, I'll take that any day of the week. So firstly, decide on what it is you're trying to achieve, what it is you're trying to bring to the world, what legacy you want in there. Number 2, decide if this is a business or a hobby. Like, right at the start, you cannot start. I get so many people who are nonprofits, and no disrespect to nonprofit, but never tell me you're a nonprofit. Like, I don't care about your tax status, and I don't care about whether you feel that by saying it's a nonprofit, it's going to make a difference, because you have to make money somehow. Even as a nonprofit, money has to come in. So fine, if you positioned yourself as a nonprofit to make sure you get, but I want you thinking on day one you are for profit. You have a tax formation, great. Good luck to you. God bless you if you can get some extra tax off your bill at the end of it. But for all intents and purposes on a day-to-day basis, what you do is you run a for-profit business because it has to pay your salary at the end of the month, or you're just going to be the poorest guy on the side of the street. So we want you really looking at, what does your 18-month look like? Let's say, for argument's sake, I want to build up a parking app company. And let me take one that's a little bit easier. I'm actually going to take a company that's one of our companies that's just gone through, just been really successful. They just raised a bunch of money. And Craig Carroll owns a company called Smart CSM. Smart CSM do predictive maintenance within buildings. So when something is going to go wrong with your air conditioning or with something else, it tells you. And then when it does break, it sends out alerts to all of the people in the system. So if you're a real estate person, it's actually a really, really good system he put together. He spent about $300,000 putting it together, and he put together a plan. And his plan to his investors and everybody involved said, I'm not going to give you big, long projections on how this is going to go, because who knows? But what I am going to do is I'm going to tell you in 18 months how much revenue we're going to bring in. I'm going to tell you how many prospects we're going to have to get us that amount of clients. And I'm going to tell you the specific marketing channels that we're going to work through to make sure that we actually get to that type of space. So in his case, he had a few less than 100 clients, but we'll use this as an example. So let's say, just for basic purposes, we're looking for 100 clients, which is going to bring us $100,000 a month, right? $1,000 contract value per client, 20,000 prospects. Maybe that's our universe of the people we have to reach out to. So when you start thinking like this, and this is how your mind works, where you're looking at not just 18 months out, because 18 months out is just your start. You start at the end. And we know 18 months because it's your survival rate. So it doesn't mean to be, I'm doing 500,000. You might say, well, Brian, I want to do 500 grand a year. Fine. But how much money do you need in 18 months not to be outside on the street with no house? Like, how much do you need to pay your salary, to pay all of your expenses, to pay all of your business items and everything else that you need there to make sure that you're fine in that space? So if the number is, we'll say $100,000 a month, then this is the way you need to bring it through. And then if you were in my space, and I walked up to you on a Tuesday morning in month 3, and let's say month 3 was $30,000 or $20,000 or even $5,000, because it's going to track up to the 100,000. Is everybody following me or not? Yeah, it's not hard, right? That's what's so beautiful about this. This stuff doesn't need to be difficult. Very, very simple. But when I say to somebody in the dojo, and I walk over and I say, how's your day going? And they say, fine to me. I go, what's wrong with you? Well, you think I care about your health or your happiness or anything else? We can care about your health and your happiness when you exit, or when you're doing 100 grand a month. I want a number. And if your number was 20,000 was the universe you had to reach out to, and we normally focus on 4 channels, because it's very hard to focus on any more than 4 channels at one time. So let's say one channel is, I'll just put the channels up there. Let's say one channel is direct mail, another channel is affiliates, another channel is something else. Let's say in direct mail, we needed to outreach to 5,000 people. Let's say in affiliates, and affiliates means they're people who pay you afterwards. Sorry, you pay them afterwards. So you sell, they introduce a product to their people, or maybe they're an influencer, they introduce a product to their people buy it, we give them 20% or maybe what we make, or whatever you do, right? But whatever your channels are, it doesn't matter. But you have to proactively plan out the channels so that you know exactly what you're going to get through in the month. And then here's what's gorgeous about this, is once you get to the end of the month, let's say my number is $100,000 on month 18. Let's say on month 4, my number is $4,000 or $5,000. And let's say that's cool, because in month 1 and 2, I had to do my website and I had to do branding. Like, there's things you have to do at the beginning, but you have to allocate them. And even if you're doing your website, you still have to make sure it's all numerical. Like, how many website developers do I need to reach out to get how many proposals, to make sure I get which one that's actually going to do it. But let's say month 4 is $5,000. Then let's say you miss it, and in month 4 you end up getting $3,000 or $3,500. It's beautiful, because we found out there's a problem. The whole objective of entrepreneurship, the only thing that matters, is finding the truth. That's the only thing we want to do. I'm not trying to build a billion-dollar company. I'm not trying to prove to my best friend that actually after college I've done a better job than he has. I want to find the truth. This is a purpose which is a selfish soul purpose that you end up following. But I want to get to the end of month 3 and find out, or month 4 and find out that I failed, not month 18 and find out that I failed. Because now I can deal with one of the reasons behind it. Now I can deal not with the symptom, but with the problem itself. It's either me. So let's say I'm running a space. So a lot of the time, we have a logistics manager in our space, but I am truly horrible at logistics. I'm horrible. Like, you come to my space, and our operations person isn't there, and I'm running it, and there's no toilet roll in the bathroom. It's just the way it is. I can't help that. It's a curse that I have. But if that's caused me to lose $500 worth of revenue in that particular month, then I got to fix that, which means I got to fix me. Same thing with the product. Maybe my product is terrible. I've had companies with terrible products before. I mean, it's possible, right? And the worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur, the most awful thing, the saddest thing in the whole world, is just watching that tiny bit of hope. You know, it's like a little light that you keep follow every month, and you just make it through, and you just pay your mortgage, and you just pay your car almost. And then you got like a couple of bills which you can put off to next month because you don't need to cover them straight away, and you made it through to the next month. And that's okay at the beginning, because that's the way it's supposed to be, but it's not okay in month 47. So you got to make sure that you build this plan. And I'll tell you, the last thing we do for our people is when we get to I don't do it to everyone because not everybody can take this, but we ask people to sign a contract on the first day when they come in, which is not with us, but the contract is with the people who are close to them. So it could be husband, it could be wife, it could be somebody else. And the contract says, if I don't hit this milestone by month 18, then I will propose that we close down the business. Kind of hardcore, right? It's hardcore because you got to do it. Like you got to do it right at the beginning. And it doesn't mean you close it down. It just means that you're not in this depressed, terrible cycle where you're just on your own. Okay, so I wanted to. These are just some of the things we do. Look, we have investor festivals. I think we have the largest investor pitch event in the United States where we bring about 80 or 90 investors down. And like I said, we had 500 companies come through our program last year. We have a venture studio. We travel with our entrepreneurs. We do a bunch of stuff. But look, we only have one group of people that we care about, and that's early stage entrepreneurs. So if somebody comes up to me afterwards and says, hey, Brian, I'm a late stage entrepreneur. We're doing over $100,000 a month. We're at Series B, we're really good, I want you as an advisor of the company, I'm going to say no. Or we want you to invest in the company, or even just, I want to come over to the dojo and be involved. We're going to say no, because that's not what we're good at. It's not what we like. It's not what we enjoy. There's people who are way better for the politics that companies start moving into that stage. Where we're good at is in the cage fighting space. It's right at the beginning when a company goes from zero to something. So I think I have probably a minute or two left. I didn't want you to miss that. I got 1 minute left. Look, if anybody has any questions, so there's probably three groups of people here, right? The first group of people here is people who are thinking of starting a business, and it's like the most amazing thing in the world. And then this guy has just come up and totally depressed you. Well, I shouldn't, because it's awesome. And nothing else is better than this. For any of you people who want to reach out and find out about entrepreneurship, you can find a bunch of free content on our site with interviews with amazing, really great entrepreneurs, really great investors. Just go to Expert Dojo, go into the free content area, and then just under programs, free content, and then look at it till your heart's content. Then the second group of people are entrepreneurs out there who are struggling. Any of you can reach out to me, and either me or one of my team will happily work with you just at brian@expertdojo.com. And happy to help in any way. And then just other people who are interested or want to help, especially people who want to help and get involved with early stage entrepreneurs and early stage communities, are people you know would want to would give help to early stage communities. Again, reach out and we'll happily work with you. So I don't want to be disrespectful to the next person, but you don't need to worry about doing it in this environment. You can reach out to me anytime. We're always over on the mall. At some stage, we would love to come over here, actually. We see amazing entrepreneurial stuff going on over here. And I think that's probably my time's up. I just got it that. Okay. Thank you, folks.